Welcome back to CfTesla. Today we're going to be going through the new UI that recently came out to Tesla through one of our most recent updates. We're going to be basically going through every single part of what's on your screen, what it does, where to find it, and some tips and tricks that I picked up along the way and things I've simply run into. Now, to get started, you can see that there's a lot of different changes here on the screen. We're going to work our way from left to right to get started here. So to get us starting here, over on the left-hand side, we have our gear that we are in, we have our headlights, we have our fog lights, and we have our seatbelt indicator over here. We have our open trunk, our lock, the whole car, as well as we have our open and closed charge port down over here. Now, one thing that's changed in this space right here is there's no longer cards here. There's no more coming up here and swiping anywhere to get your cards to come up anymore. Instead, that's all been incorporated into the settings panel, which we'll get to here in a minute. On the top here, this is still the same. You can click on the percentage to get to your miles, click on it again to go back to percentage left inside of your battery. And when you click on your battery, it pulls up now inside of your settings panel, your charging options, which we'll go through in a minute. Next over here, we have the lock car button, the time, the temperature, and then we have over here the button you press if you're part of the full self-drive beta testers group. So what that does is it basically records and sends a snapshot of what's going on around your vehicle back to Tesla if something happens when you're out driving. Now, for purposes of this video, let's clarify a few things. When I say just regular Autopilot, I'm referring to somebody who has not paid the $10,000 or subscribed to the full self-driving beta program. Not beta testers, just beta program. So that's regular Autopilot. When I say full self-drive beta, I'm referring to people who have simply paid for the beta, but they're not part of the beta testers program. And that leaves the third category, which are the full self-drive beta testers category. The reason why I have to distinguish those is because different things on the menu that we'll go through only appear depending on which part and which program you're actually a part of. You notice up here we do not have the dash cam button up here anymore, so now in order to save that we have to do it down in the menu as well, which I'll show you. And then we don't have the zoom in and zoom out options anymore on the map as well. You have to just use your fingers like this, which is something we're kind of used to on our tablets and phones, but was, it was kind of nice to have it there before, but now it's gone, so it's a little more clean screen, which is nice. You still have the ability with navigation to tap on it and go to your home, work, or charging. You have your recent addresses in there as well as favorites. If you're feeling hungry, find a nice restaurant, lucky, whatever. And then you do have the ability as well still to pull down to go to your work or pull over to go to your work. And if you're at work, pull down to go to home or swipe over to go to home. And if that doesn't do that for you, you need to go back into here to where these two are and set those destinations by putting in those addresses, and then that will work for you. Now, if you're new to Tesla, you might be wondering, why in the world would you need to put in an address to get to your home if you're only at work? And if you're at work, why do you need an address in your navigation to get to home? Well, it's because the car is, the whole idea is that it's going to be running and driving for you. So the car needs to know where you're going. So if you paid for the full self-drive beta package, then you want the car to navigate for you. And if you're a full self-drive beta tester, it's going to navigate for you all the way in inner cities and everything. So you got to make sure there's an address in there so it knows where to go. So that's a nice little way to do that. Now, if this is grayed out and not solid white over here where that little location arrow is, that means that it's not centered in and locked in on your location. So if I press that, it's going to center and lock in over top of me. So that's really nice because now when I drive, it'll keep me centered in the screen. But if I go like this, now it's going to keep me right there and I can actually drive off of the screen. So it can end up going like this away from me as I drive away. But if you can't find yourself, just tap that right there. It's going to bring it right back to you. Same thing if the map is spun, just tap it, center it straight out. Now on the top right hand side, you have the satellite mode to turn it right there. You have a toggle here for traffic, and then you have a toggle here for the supercharging stations, which isn't apparently working right now because they're not showing up anywhere. But I think that's one of the few errors that are in the UI currently, and Elon has tweeted that he knows about them and Tesla's working on getting those fixed. And we'll talk about a few other ones as we go through this. I mean, that just turned off a bunch of locations. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Now on the bottom, there's a lot of different changes going on here. The first button here is your settings, so you can pull it up and go through all your controls, and we'll go through that in a minute. But now we have the two climate controls separated on either side. This is a lot more like your average car is. Most cars have them on each side, so the passenger can control that one, the driver can control this one. But a lot of different things happen when you touch these Now, if you press your finger on them and hold, it'll turn off the temperature, which it did that before. But if you press and swipe, what'll happen is this new control pops up. Now, you can move your finger to adjust the temperature, but it is so hypersensitive, which is one of those little errors, that it needs to really be adjusted to slow way down. For example, I'd like to be able to move across the whole screen to adjust it versus just in this little spot here, similar to like you can do with the volume. If I had the volume over here and I want to reduce it, look how far I can move my finger to adjust it. I'd like to have the same way here, so it's a lot less sensitive. So for now, just use the arrows and it's fine. But while you're touching this up here, you can see that these other options pop up. Now, you'll see me continually pop it here because they go away so quickly, which is fine if you're not trying to record while talking about them. But you have the settings button right here, which pulls up your main control panel. Then what you have here is your seat settings, so press that a few different times. I do wish this stayed up a little bit longer to adjust that. You have auto, which is kind of nice, which means that depending on what your temperature is here, it's going to adjust how much heat is going to your seat. So if I put it down at super cold here, you can see that the seat adjusted down, so it's showing a little bit less heat going to your seat. I'm going to move that back up to something normal here. And then you got your defrost window and defrost mirrors as well. Now you'll see here that there is an option for split. Now it's not blue, so that means that they're not split. Whatever I adjust here is going to also adjust over there. So if I want them to be separate, I can tap split, it turns blue, and now when I adjust mine, it will not adjust the passengers over there. She, of course, or whoever is on the other passenger side has the same options available to her or them that I have over on my side. And they too have the ability to sync them by tapping split and adjusting it over there. And then of course, as we already mentioned, over here is the volume. You can use the arrows, you can press and hold on it to mute it, or you can press and just drag your finger to adjust it. Now let's talk about this icon section down here for your apps, where you can control what apps are down here now. So before we had no control, now you have control. There's some good and bad to this. Overall, I like it. Let's talk about how this works though. So you have the option of going up to 4 different favorites for your apps down here. Next to it over here, you have a button that gets you to all the rest of your apps. Then there's a line, and on the right side of this is showing a recent application that I was in. If I tap phone, well, that normally would change to phone. So if I went up here to energy, that would change to energy, for example. But what happens is, let's say I only wanted 3 down here. So I press and hold to adjust them, and I drag Bluetooth out of there. Now you can see that 2 most recent apps pops in over here, because you'll always have enough room here for your 4 or 6 most recent apps. But one of those is obviously your menu button. So what you could do, let's say, is if you took your phone and removed that as well, took your that camera out and just left 1 in here, just your calendar in here, you would have 4 recent applications in here, which is actually what my preference is. I'd rather have the 4 things I use the most, but have it adjust itself for what I'm currently doing for that day. So it's almost like it's custom to what my day is revolving around by having the recents in here. That's really great. Now, they did something kind of cool here, because my first impression was, well, if I want to get to my phone, I don't want to have to keep going up here in the menu and trying to find it all the time. Now, they did something really nice with this. What they did was they made it so that when you click on this icon, for example, the calendar, it's going to bring up my calendar here. But what it's also going to do is give me access to calls. So you can click on calls, and you got your phone numbers, then you got a dial pad, you got your messages, contacts, favorites, and then back over here to calendar again. So you've got all of your stuff you need right there, quickly accessible. Just tap the 1 button and then they're all there. It does the same thing with music. So if I wanted to have my music button down here, which is probably a good one to have, and I use the mostly streaming from my phone, so I'm going to grab Bluetooth here, hold on it, it gets big, pull it down in here, you see one of my recent ones disappears, and now I got that down here. So if I click on this, well, there's my Bluetooth syncing with my phone. But if I want to access, say, my streaming service or the radio, well, all I have to do is tap on this drop down here, come down to any of the other ones here, radio, streaming, whatever, and then I have access to all of that there. On the right-hand side of all the different parts of your music and entertainment side here, if you click on this, it's going to take you to all your other recent channels and stations that you've been to, as well as your favorites, which is a really great way to get the stuff you're recently at. You can hit search here and search for a certain song or album if you happen to have Spotify or the streaming service. And then over here, you have the ability to come in and adjust your settings. So you can go into explicit and turn that off. So I'm going to turn explicit content off. That allows it, so if I'm here with in my car with my kids, it will not play explicit music, which is always a good thing. And you got other controls in there. You can go in here to tone. You can adjust the different tones inside of your car. You can go to balance. You can adjust where the speakers are. So if your kids are trying to sleep in the back seat, you can bring all the music up front or wherever, and it's just kind of nice. I have it set in the middle for the immersive sound. Makes it sound really good. And then, of course, to close any window, just tap on the app that opened it, and it'll close it down. And you can see that there's multiple levels of opening. There's all the way, tap it again for halfway, tap it again for completely gone. And you can see, too, that when I tap it down halfway, it goes to your recents and favorites, which is really cool. One other thing I'll point out, too, because I get asked this a lot, is if you don't see these different options, these toggles right here on your navigation, just tap the screen, and it will appear. So you can make it appear and disappear right there. So that's going to wrap it up for the stuff changed on the front here. Now let's get into the actual settings and break down each one of those settings, what they do and what is on them. So now to get into the settings, we're going to click on the little car. It's going to pull up the first one being controls here. So controls is meant to be everything you're going to need quick access to when you're in the car, stuff you might use on a daily basis. So first it's going to tell you whose profile you're under here. Next you're going to have your notification screen right there, which used to be at the top up here, but it's now hidden. Next is your Bluetooth, so whose Bluetooth, you want to sync messages, sync contacts, that sort of thing. Add a new phone to your car, all done right there. And then over here is your Wi-Fi or LTE. So you have that all showing there now. Below that, you have your headlights. So you have the option of having them off, have your parking lights on, have your headlights on, have them on auto, or you have your auto headlights. So auto just means turning on and off based upon the time of day it is. So if it's bright and sunny out, it's going to keep them off. If it's getting towards the end of the evening, it's getting dark, twilight, it's going to turn it back on. Auto high beams means actual high beams on and off. So the car will sense when the car is in front of you or coming towards you, and it will turn them off in time so it's not blinding them. Some people like it, some people don't. I keep mine off. I'm not a big fan of it personally. I think it does work pretty well though. But anyway, that's where that option is. You can fold your mirrors here. By pressing that, it's going to automatically just fold your mirrors up. And by the way, you can hit location saved. So while I'm here, it'll actually fold the mirrors for me, which is kind of neat. And if I didn't want them to do that, I can tap that, and now it's no longer saved at this location. So when I park here in the future, it won't fold the mirrors as I come in here and put it in park. But I want them folded here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit fold and then save location. You got your child lock right there, your window lock, and then your glove box. Now I have my glove box set to have a password on there, which you can set up under the securities tab. So if you don't want anyone getting in there who might be driving your car, maybe you keep some private information in there or whatever, and someone else is taking your car out, you can put a pin on that so they can't get into the glove box. Underneath that, you have your windshield wiper settings, which is really nice to have them right there. In the past, it was only if you press the button on your indicator stalk over here that would pop up, which is also a new design. You have off, and then you have 4 settings, and then auto, and you have the same settings right here. Below that, you have controls for your mirrors. You can press that and go left and right side. Now these are individual and by profile, so make sure that if you got your spouse, like my wife got in the car and set hers, it's not going to be set on mine, so make sure you do that under yours. And after you make an adjustment, come down here and hit save, so it saves to your profile. The toggle switches here are to auto tilt, so if you pull up to a curb and you put the car in reverse, that the left mirror in this instance will tilt down so you can see the curb better. Mirror auto fold, so again, you lock the car, it's going to automatically fold in. And then mirror auto dim, so a bright car is behind you at night, the car is going to sense that brightness and it's going to dim your mirror. Just make sure you do it on both sides if you want it. Below that, you have your steering control, so by clicking on that, it's going to give you the option to raise or lower your steering wheel or put it in and out. And you can see as I adjust it, the save or restore pops up, and it allows you to save it to your profile. If I hit restore, it'll put it back to where it was before I adjusted it. On the right-hand side here, you have the recording, and this is a button you're going to probably use quite often. This is now your new dash cam button. Before, it used to be at the very top. Now what happens is when you want to save footage, all you have to do is quickly come in here, tap this, tap that, and then you can see it saved the footage. Now how dash cam works in a Tesla is down below in your zip drives or wherever you have yours plugged in, it's going to be recording a loop of 60 minutes of video. And what will happen is when you tap that, it's going to take the previous 10 minutes of recording, it's going to save it separately in a file that you can pull up later when you plug your zip drive into a computer or you use a like-minded program. Now, one thing that I haven't found on here is how to actually view your actual videos you've taken. Pressing and holding doesn't work. I'm not sure where exactly to do that. Now, I have mine turned off and record. If you press and hold, it'll actually turn this off so it won't be recording constantly. Tapping it once will save it. Pressing and holding toggles it on and off. So watch, if I press and hold again, it gives you the nice poof sound, and now it's going to be recording, saving footage. So that's a little thing that you kind of find by trial and error. Sentry mode is your alarm system in the car that records footage of people that walk close to their vehicle. So by having this red dot here, that shows you that it is on. Pressing and holding on that doesn't do anything. So just turning it on and off with the tap is all you need. And below that is going to be your screen brightness. So by sliding your finger on the sun, it's going to adjust that brighter or lower. And if you want the car to automatically adjust it based upon how bright it is outside, you can click auto. But for sake of this video and recording, I'm going to keep it bright. Now below that on pedals and steering, this is going to be the control of how you feel when your car is driving. So first up is acceleration. You got chill and you got standard. Standard mode is going to be what most people use, but chill mode is also great if you're learning, you're not used to the super torque of an electric car, or if you're driving in, slick conditions. It's a really great place to turn that on so the car's not so aggressively taking off. Under that, you have steering mode, you got comfort, standard, and sport, and that's going to basically decide how stiff and sporty your car feels when you're driving it. I like mine to be on sport or standard mode. I think it just feels really good. Makes the steering wheel nice and stiff. Feels like you got a lot of control in there. Regenerative braking. This is another one that you're going to adjust based upon your comfort level. I like standard, which is going to be the maximum regenerative braking. It makes it so you pretty much never have to use your brake while you're driving. Low, you use your brake like you would on a normal car, mostly. I do use this in snowy weather, so if it's icy or snowy out and I don't want my cars to break loose, my wheels, I'll just hit it onto low, and then when I take my foot off the brake, it's going to roll just like a normal car, and I'll be able to pump my brakes to avoid any kind of sliding. So if you're in bad conditions, bad weather, it might be a good idea to go to chill and also put that over there to low. And then down below here is stopping mode, and these are three completely different ways of telling the car what to do when you come to a stop. So hold, which is probably the most common, is when you come to a complete stop, your car will then simply say hold up here on the screen. So if I put the car into drive, see up here it says hold. That means that I don't have to have my foot on the brake. It's going to act like my foot's on the brake, and then when I'm ready to go, all I have to do is put my foot on the accelerator and it's going to go. Another thing I'll point out here now that I put it into drive is there's two different things happening here. One is I have this fasten seatbelt alert that pops up, and it shows me who needs to fasten their seatbelt right now because there's only weight on my seat and the seatbelt is not plugged in. That means that I am the one who needs to put my seatbelt on. Also, you'll notice now that I'm in drive and I'm going forward that you can see that there's a line here, which means I can then slide my screen over and go to full screen, which is so cool. You'll notice too that how all of the speed and everything works is now different. So it says the speed limit is 25 miles an hour, but watch when I go to the full screen, it's going to slide that over, giving me the maximum cleanest look I can possibly have. And if I actually go put my foot on the brake here, you can see that the speed limit is now 0 miles per hour, which of course it is, but it's nice and centered big right there. I think it could even be even bigger. I think we got enough space here to make that bigger. I think that'd be just fine, but that's all, whatever. You got the battery health up here, or not health, but the amount of regenerative it's capable of doing up here on the top. That little bar up there. And what you're seeing right now on my screen is what the screen looks like if you're part of the Full Self-Drive Beta program. Now getting back here to the actual settings menu here, the next option is roll. And what roll does is it allows the car to actually use gravity to pull the car forward, much like you would do inside a normal vehicle. So you come up to a stop and you're on a little downhill, the car is going to roll forward. Whereas creep is a little bit different. It's where the motor is going to actually make it roll forward. So even if you're not gonna roll based on gravity, it'll make the car actually roll forward, which I don't know, it's kind of weird to me. I like having the hold on there. And then you got slip start down here, which if your vehicle is stuck in snow or sand, you can turn that on, and then it's going to just make the wheels shoot power to them separately and differently so that it allows you to get yourself unstuck. Next up, we have the charging tab. And under this is a lot of the same similar stuff. You can adjust your car, the amount of charge you want going to it by pressing on the triangle and moving that around. You can open the charge port, unlock the charge port. Now these two options here that show the location, these again are going to be based on the location, which is kind of nice. So this first one here is going to control how much wattage is going to be going into your car at this charging location. And then this one down here is you can tell the car, when I'm at this location, I want you to schedule my start time, for example, to 10 a.m. So right now, if I hit set, what this is doing is it's saying that at 10 a.m., I want the car ready to go. This is my scheduled departure. So it's going to have the battery ready, my temperature of the car ready, all so I get in the car and it's perfect and comfortable. Now, if I want to schedule the time I want my car to start charging instead, I can tap this down here, toggle that on, and then I can set the time of day that I want the car to start charging. Below that is your supercharger. It tells you the amount that you paid last time and the location of it. And then what I really like is that it now gives you some tips for it. So for all the new people out there, it's really great to see some super tricks on here for supercharging. And one thing that you want to really pay attention to is this one right here, which is leave a space between cars. Neighboring stalls may share power. If you can do that, always do that. That's always a good tip. Next up, we have Autopilot, and this is where all those definitions of the different types of drivers and the programs are going to come into play here. So all these things I have on my screen, some of you guys will have not even half of these, some of you guys will have a quarter of these, and some of you will have all of them depending if you're on different programs. So now, if you're just on the regular Autopilot, so you haven't paid for the full self-drive package, then you will have auto steer. Auto steer just keeps your car on the road and just keeps you in your lane. It will not take exits, will not change lanes for you. You toggle that if you want that on. Navigate and autopilot is where the car will actually change one interstate to the next, take you from an on-ramp onto an interstate, take you from interstate off of an interstate, but it will not drive you in the inner city. That's what the full self-drive beta does. Navigate and autopilot is that when that toggles on, it's going to just help you go around different slow vehicles on the freeway and keep you at your pace. And that's how the settings are all set up here. So if we go into this to look at that, here's how this works. You can choose to enable at the start of every trip. Now, when we say trip, I mean you put a destination in your car. I don't mean you just got in your car and you went driving, but you actually put an address into the navigation. And if this is on to yes, what that means then is that it's going to automatically kick on to navigate and autopilot instead of just auto steer. So you're going to actually have a line down the middle of your visualization, and it's going to change lanes for you on the freeway. It's going to do the exits, everything we just talked about, automatically without you having to tell it to do that. You can still just manually tap it when you're navigating, but this is going to make it so it automatically starts doing that. The lane-based speed changes is going to decide when you're on that freeway or interstate, how quickly do you want to adjust and go around other vehicles that are going too slow. So as an example, if you're on Mad Max mode, the reason why I keep it there is because it's going to do its very best to never make me slow down. If I'm going down the road and the car sees a car in front of me is going under my max speed, it will change lanes before it has to slow down, and then it will get back again in front of that car after it passes it, assuming the car in front of him is not going to slow me down. Average is going to come up to the car, wait a few seconds, and then it will get over and change lanes behind him. Mild will go behind that car for quite a while. You might even drop 8 and 9 miles per hour before the car actually starts changing lanes for you. Now, exit passing lane, this is something that I don't know why they even give it to us, but if your car is darting in and out of the passing lane too much and you wanted to stay in the passing lane, you can turn this on to no, and then it will just, once you pass a car, it will just stay in that lane, which is, it's nice to have the choice, but I have mine set to yes, because once I get out of the fast lane or into the fast lane, I want to get back out of it so other people that want to go faster than me can then go. Require lane change confirmation, I have mine on no. What that does is that when it's time to pass a car, it's going to pop up and say, I want to pass this car. Will you allow me to do that? I can either tap yes on the screen, or I can press my blinker indicator over here, and that'll also confirm it, let it do that. I have it set to no, so when the car sees a car it wants to pass, it just simply will just pass it without asking me permission to do that. Now on lane change notification, this means that when the car wants to make that lane change, once again, it's going to, for me, both chime me and vibrate the wheel to let me know it's going to do that. It's not going to require me to do anything about it. It's just letting me know that it's about to do that. But again, if you don't want that, you can turn that to off. Now, underneath that, if you've paid for the full self-drive beta program, you paid the $10,000 or signed up for the subscription, you can toggle it on right here. And then what that's going to do is allow you to use all the fun stuff of driving in the inner city. And these are the controls right here. This is really all there is right now for how to control that. So let's go through these. So you got chill, average, and assertive. So chill, what that's going to mean is that it's going to keep a larger following distance between you and the car in front of you. I mean, we're talking like 5 or 6 car lengths, pretty wide. And while you're going down the city roads, it's going to go around much fewer cars than it would on the assertive side. So remember how we talked about on the freeways up here in the settings, how it'll pass cars that are going below your max speed? Well, this is how you adjust the full self-drive beta program, because right now they're all different. They're not they're not the same. So there's settings for the freeway driving, and there's settings for the city driving. They're different. I think when this goes to single stack, that this will all be together. We'll see. But for now, this is how you adjust that. So if you go to average, what it's going to do is it's going to have like medium following distance, it says, and it's going to do some rolling stops. So that means that it's going to come up to a stop and then go real quick without sometimes completely stopping. And then assertive means it's going to have a very, very small following distance, which I found to be still like 3 car lengths. It's going to do a lot more passing. So as I come up against a car, even in the inner city, and I'm going, slower than my max speed, it's going to allow me to go around that car much more than the other ones would. And then it's going to do a lot more rolling stops. Down below this, we have the traffic light and stop sign controls. So if you paid for the full stop drive beta package, then your car will start and stop from on stop signs and stop lights. Now, if you are just on regular autopilot, you have not paid for the package, you will see them on your visuals, and it will ding at you if you're going to run a red light. So they'll let you know it's red or that there's a stop sign coming, but it will not stop you for them. Below that is a full stop driving preview. So over here, the visualizations will appear if this toggle is on to see stop lights, stop signs, crosswalks, all that stuff. Really helpful feature. If you don't want that though, you can turn that off. Below that, you have the summon. So if you want your car to be able to summon, you can click on that. Now there's some settings here for summon. And the settings are all about how close you want your car to get to something. So the bumper clearance, I have mine set to 16 inches. So I'm okay with my car getting up to 16 inches of something before it's going to make itself stop. And my summoning distance, so the distance it will summon from, is set at 40 feet. And then my side clearance I have set to tight. And you can adjust that, but I have it set to tight because I want my car to be able to pull into places like my garage and not start freaking out and stopping thinking it's getting too close to something. And then the last thing down here communicates with your actual Tesla app, which is require continuous press. So if you're trying to summon your car and you don't want to press and hold the come to me button, then you can turn it on to no here. So instead you just press come to me, and if you want the car to stop for whatever reason, you press stop automatically on the app, and then it will stop. So you can turn that on and off depending what you want there. And then standby mode is another option you have here. I always keep mine off because I want my car to actually go to sleep, and I don't really ever use summon. But if you're going to use summon, you can turn standby mode on, your car won't go to sleep, and then it'll allow you to summon it to you when you want your car from a parking lot or whatever without having to first wake it up. And I will point out too that if it is on, that these other ones, like you can exclude your home, exclude your work, and exclude favorite locations. You can turn those on, those check marks on, so that standby mode won't be turned on in those locations. So if you're at a mall, it'll be on, but if you're at home, it won't be. So it won't be draining your battery. Next, you have your set speed. So what that means is if you're on autopilot and you want the car to adjust based upon what the speed limit is actually on the road you're driving, you have it there, so it's adjusted off the speed limit. Or you can go to current speed, which makes the car just keep what the speed is that you had set it at. But I do not believe that you can still go over the speed limit more than 5 miles per hour. I think it's just more or less going to let you keep the speed and not automatically adjust it based on what the new speed is of the new road. It's going to let you do it as long as you're not over the speed limit, because autopilot will not drive over the speed limit. Now, if you're on the speed limit and it's going to be doing adjusting for you, you can have it to be adjust at a percentage or a fixed limit. I keep mine at 5%. The reason for that being, if I had it at 5 miles per hour, let's just say, and I go into a school zone, well, 5 over in a school zone is way more speed than 5% is. And so I like 5%, so it's basically adjusting based upon the speed I'm on, but it's going to be a different amount of speed each time, and it gives you a little example when you first click it down there. You have your automatic blind spot camera, which is something I love that they added. So if you put your right blinker on, for example, you see the camera pops up here, and it shows you what is in your blind spot. That's a new thing that was just added. Plus you have your blind spot collision warning chime. So if you're going to try to change lanes and there's someone in your blind spot, it's going to chime at you, but of course those can both be turned off. You got your speed limit warning. I have mine set on display, so if I'm speeding going over the speed limit, then my speed limit sign will magnify and it will let me know that I am speeding at the time. But if I want to be super careful to not speed, I can click chime, so it'll ding at me every time I go over the speed limit. I'll just warn you, it's highly annoying. Down here on the speed limit, you can keep it as relative or absolute. and you can adjust the offset down here to keep it accurate. Below that, you have your forward collision warning. I keep mine on medium. I find that it's plenty sensitive enough there. That's basically where you're going down the road and maybe your attention's just not quite right and the car's in front of you stop while you're still accelerating, your foot's still on the accelerator. It'll then alert at you and warn you, hey, there's people stopping ahead, get on the brake. Or if you're just not braking fast enough, it'll pop up. Early just gets it that much more sensitive. Then you got your lane departure avoidance. I have it on to assist. So what that means is if you're going down the road and you start driving onto one of the other lines on the side of the road or the middle of the road, what it's going to do is it's going to either warn you, hey, you're crossing the line, or assist will actually pull you back into your lane, which is really kind of nice. It does allow you to override it. So if you're trying to pull onto the side of the road, it'll fight you maybe for a second, but then it will eventually let you get over. Or what you should do anyway is put your blinker on, and then it will turn this off while you're doing that. It will not try to assist you while your blinker is on because it thinks it's supposed to be doing that. And then underneath you have your toggles for the emergency lane departure, which is what we just talked about. You have your automatic braking, where the car's going to automatically brake in the event that there is something in the way of the vehicle. You have your obstacle aware acceleration. So this is going to either slow your car down or stop your vehicle at a low speed if there's something in the way. So if you're backing into your garage and it sees a car or a bike or something, or a kid walks past you all of a sudden, then it's going to go ahead and stop. So this is like low speed. This is like high speed a little bit more. So for an example of this is I was turning onto an on-ramp the other day and the car in front of me was going, and then all of a sudden decided to do a U-turn. Well, he slammed on his brakes to make the turn, but I was still deep in the acceleration behind him, probably 20 miles an hour at the time. Well, all of a sudden my pedal went limp. There was no more power to it, and my car stopped in time to not run into the corner of that guy's car, which was super amazing to see how that worked. Down here we have traffic aware cruise control chime. You have your green traffic light chime. So this, what that basically means is if you're sitting there at a stoplight and the light turns green, the car chimes at you to let you know the light is now green, which is actually quite handy if you're looking down at your phone, you're talking to your wife or your kids or something in the back seat, and you happen to turn away just for a second. It avoids a couple of those honks from people behind you as you take too long to get going. Next up is locks, where you can add new people to it, new car keys, new apps to it, your car, so new drivers to the car. My wife and I each have our phones, and we each have a car key assigned to it. And then I have my Handshell smart ring here that I use for my key, which is what one of these are. Below that, you have controls for window locks, child locks, walk-away door lock, so automatically lock your doors when you get out, even at home. So for me right now, I have exclude home not checked because my car is being parked outside. But if my car was in my garage, I would have exclude home so that my car wouldn't lock when I went into my house, even though the car was in the garage. Next is driver door unlock mode, and I have mine turned on. So when I walk up to my car, only the driver door unlocks, and then I can unlock the rest if I want. Unlock on park is where you park your car. Maybe you're at home or wherever, but you're in the car, you put it in park, and then all your doors unlock. The car left open notification is really great if you have kids like me, because lots of times the kids will go into the car to get something, or we'll all get out at home, we'll all go into the house, and I'll get a notice on my phone a few minutes later that a door or a window was left open. The windows can be automatically rolled up from the app, but the doors you got to go back out and actually shut. You got a lock confirmation sound, so when you do lock the car, it gives you a little chime sound. And then close windows on lock is also a toggle, so that helps avoid some of this, to where if you do lock their car, even if you left all the windows open, you walk into a store, all the windows will automatically roll up. Now on your lights, you have your headlights, you have your fog lights, so if you have the premium package like the all-wheel drive or premium models do, you'll have fog lights. You can toggle those on and off there. You have your dome lights here, on, off, or automatic. Open the door, they turn on. And then you have ambient lighting, which is something that the newer vehicles 2020 and newer do not have, which is where your lights down at your feet of your passenger and the driver's side will stay on while you're driving, which I love. I have blue lights that I installed down in there, and they really add a really nice effect, but that turned on and off right there. Again, auto high beams is adjusted right there. When you adjust it up here in controls, if I turned it on there, for example, came back here, be back on, so there's multiple places to adjust it. And then your headlights after exit is just where when you leave the car, it turns your headlights off automatically, and then your steering wheel lights are also toggled on right there. Next up is display. Right now I have it set to dark mode, but you can have it on light or auto. Auto is what I normally have it on if I'm not recording. That just allows you to have a bit of control, and it will change it based upon how light or dark it is outside. Again, brightness of your screen, this is another location there. You got your screen clean mode, which when you tap that just makes the screen totally black, so you can clean it without worrying about hitting any buttons. To turn this off, you just press and hold the exit as it says right here on the screen. Below that, you have your touchscreen language, your voice recognition language, your navigation language. You have your settings for your time, whether you want 24-hour or 12, percentage on distance, or you want the actual mileage, and that's referring to this up there. So if I changed it here, you can see it changes up there, and vice versa. If I press this here, it changes back. Distance, you have kilometers or miles, temperature, Celsius or Fahrenheit, and tire pressure, bar, or PSI. So depending on where you live, you'll have these set to whatever your style is. Now, trips is where all of your odometer readings went, and I love that it's here. It's so much better, in my opinion. It used to be over here as one of the cards, but now it's over here. So you have your current trip, which is from the time you left your house and came back. Then you have your since your last charge over here, so no matter how many times you leave your house, it doesn't matter. It's going to recount it every time you recharge. And then you have the ones you can change, which are your, for me, I call business trip and lifetime trip. So my business trip, what that is just every time I go to a client's house and back, I reset it so I can record my mileage for taxes. And then my lifetime is something that I set as soon as I started. I bought the car, that way I can see what my total watt hour is per mile since I bought the car, which is at $2.99 right now. Then you have your actual odometer reading. But now you can reset these right here by just simply pressing on current trip, business trip, and lifetime trip. So you can, the quick button right there, and reset, and totally done. Next down is your navigation, and again, we're going to be going through another tutorial on this very soon for navigation, so make sure you subscribe and you have that bell notification rung so you see that when it comes. But I have my automatic navigation turned off, as I already mentioned to you guys earlier. So when I get in the car, I choose if I want it to automatically navigate me to home or work, depending on what I'm trying to do for the day. I work from home a lot now, so I no longer need it to tell me or navigate me to work when I get in the car to go to the grocery store, so I have mine turned off. Trip Planner is going to automatically route you to a supercharger if you need to use one to reach your destination. Automatic routing is going to find you the most optimal route based on traffic conditions, and then I have it set to 5 minutes. So what that means is that if a different route that I'm currently on will save me at least 5 minutes by doing it, I want it to let me know and take me and reroute me to that location. And then avoid ferries. I want to avoid ferries for sure, avoid tolls for sure, and use HOV lanes. I have that off. Right now, the car can't tell how many people are in the car. That hasn't been activated yet, so you have to let the car know if, while on navigation, you want it to actually use HOV lanes or not. Next, we'll go down here into safety, where we have the option to allow the car to be controlled by a mobile app or not. If that's off, you'll only be able to use your key. You can power off the car right here. It powers off the lights, powers off the screen and all that. I mean, you've seen me do a lot of installs on this channel. This is great if you're going to do some stuff in your car, but it doesn't really, you know, you still want to go in and unplug it off your battery just to be safe, but this does power off all this stuff here. But as soon as you put your foot on the brake or come in and out of your car, it just turns it all back on again anyway. So you got speed limit mode, where if you turn that on, you can kind of cap how fast your car is going to actually go. And then you have your Sentry mode, where you're going to turn on and off essentially your security system. And if it's on, you can choose to exclude it at different locations like work or home if you're parking in a garage or something and don't need it, and you don't want 1,000 notifications every time your coworkers walk by. But I have mine on there, or on there. View live camera via mobile app. This is where you can view your live cameras anytime from your app. However, if someone's inside of the vehicle, it does not work. So you have to make sure that you're not in the car trying to make it work, getting frustrated why you can't see it. The car has to be parked with nobody in it, and then you can pull up the cameras. So I have my dash cam set to manual, meaning that I tell it right up here, okay, when I want to save the footage. Otherwise, on auto, it'll automatically detect if you're in an accident, or if it senses an accident around you, it'll record that. And then I also have this toggled on here, so if I honk my horn, it's going to save the last 10 minutes worth of footage as well into my flash drive. Now, speaking of the flash drive, you can delete dash cam clips from here. You can format the USB drive. So if we click on delete dash cam clips, it's going to delete all of the stuff off of your dash cam folder. So if I click that, just my dash cams are deleted. Format USB drives are going to delete everything on the drive. That's the difference. So this is just dash cam. This is everything else. So this is your Sentry View videos. Everything are over there. You got parking assist chimes. So if you're getting too close to something, it's going to chime at you. Joe mode makes all those chimes and stuff much quieter if you're annoyed at them. Security alarm is, of course, well, it's a security alarm. Pin to drive and pin to glove box. Make it so if you're going to go drive your car, put it in drive. The first time you go to do that, when you get in your car, you have to type in your pin to keep it. And the reason why that is really important is because if someone else gets a hold of your phone, or even more importantly, your Tesla car key, then they can get in your car and essentially just drive and do whatever. They can go to superchargers, they can do whatever they want, spend your money, anything with that. But if you use a pin, then they really can't do anything unless they know your pin as well. So it's pretty nice. Then you got your cabin overheat protection, which I have mine on. And the difference is being here is that I'm telling my car being on that it's okay to use AC to keep my car at a maximum temperature of 105. If you have no AC, what it does is it'll do its best to keep it below 105, but it's not going to use AC, so there's a chance it might go over 105. It just uses a little bit more battery when using AC, so that's why that option is there. Under service, you have all the different manuals here. You guys can kind of go through and look at them. They're pretty self-explanatory. A couple to point out that are fairly new over the last few updates are car wash mode. So if you're going to go through a car wash and you turn that on, then it makes it so that your car, if it's the wipers are sent to auto, for example, they won't turn the wipers on in the middle of brushes going through and breaking them off. It also won't adjust your regenerative braking as the car is being automatically moved forward. It won't be fighting with that. It allows your car to basically have no automatic stopping power to prevent all the stuff the car wash needs to do. And then another thing I'll just point out here is the wiper service mode. So if you want to change your wipers and you don't really know how, it's hard to reach them because they're tucked underneath of your hood, you press that and you can see that they pop up on my windshield, and then you can go ahead and change them, and then you push it again to bring it back down. Software is where you're going to come to see if you have an update, or you can also see it on the app, but it's going to tell you what update you're currently on. You can look at your release notes there, and then of course over here you keep it on advanced to be part of all the new updates while they're in beta. And if you're not getting the newer updates, it's probably because you're over here in standard. And then upgrades, if there's an upgrade you're eligible for in your car, it'll be right there as well. Now we'll go through a couple changes here in the climate control panel here. First of all, it's a little bit bigger than it used to be. It takes up a little bit more of the screen, a little over halfway. And now it's segregated by front and back quite a bit differently. So for example, and of course, this stuff all goes away really quick on you here. You have your departure shows up right here. So you have your departure stuff right here, so you can adjust it right from there as well. So I'm going to turn that back off because I don't actually need that. You have this new button here called Keep. Now, I don't remember, maybe this was here or not, but what this allows you to do is keep the current temperature. So if I click on this and I leave my car, it's not going to turn off my climate control after the car senses I'm out of it. So if you have your kids in the back and your spouse sitting in there, it's not going to turn it all off just because you get out of the car. It'll keep it nice and climate controlled for them. You have the controls for your seats now in the front, right, on both sides, as we talked about a little earlier on, which means that when you click on the rear button now, you can't control the front seats from this side. You can only control the back seats, which I think is kind of silly. Like, if you're going to have it all here, why take those away? Why make it so segregated like that? Give me front controls on the front, but also give me them on the back side so I can do it in one place. And then to turn them all off, you can just rear all off like that. Then you got controls for your rear fan right here, which are the vents right here between the seats blowing at the rear passenger, so you can come in here and turn those off as well for them.